Hey there, friends. Welcome to Carpo's channel. My name is Carpo, or Josh, whichever you prefer. I'm not sure how to start this particular discussion, and I find myself in a cycle here. I say that every time. I introduce myself, then I say I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about. Not every time. Sometimes I have something very important that's a topic of mine, and I guess maybe that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit here is my lack of ability to create a coherent topic lately. I've made a couple videos recently, a few that I've edited and put together, and a couple that I wanted to share on YouTube, and I never did. And over the past couple weeks, I've made quite a few videos that I didn't share, more than I did share, which is not as common as my last 10 years of just sharing whatever thought I have. Because of this, I've done some inner thinking, some soul searching, asking myself, why? Why don't you post these videos? Because quite often the videos that I do post that are just off the cuff and straight from the heart are the ones that people end up liking the most. I start double checking myself, guessing myself, making sure that I didn't say anything that might be taken offensively. And I know that some would say, just say what you got to say. Don't worry about it. But I care about people. I have empathy for people. I don't want to exclude anyone or hurt their feelings. Now, let me make this clear. Some YouTube channels talk about nothing but controversial, offensive content, right? And their whole thing is to offend a bunch of people, not because they feel they deserve it, but it's kind of a side effect of them making a lot of money off of advertisements and donations. But the point being that you know what you're going to when you go to a channel like that. For example, an atheist channel that just dismisses religion. If you're religious and you go to a channel called atheism.com, you know what you're going to find. Well, with my channel, people expect to find my thoughts, but I know that nobody wants to hear my views on racism or equality or LGBTQ community or any of these things, which in my previous video I discussed. And I'm probably going to post it on my Patreon just for my patrons because I feel like my patrons understand me a little more than the average public. Otherwise, they wouldn't be donating to my channel. And not a lot of people watch the videos that I post through Patreon. But I do that with certain ones that I might find either maybe a little more rough around the edges or maybe controversial, not because I'm afraid of backlash or responses or what people are going to say. But as I said, specifically because I don't like hurting anyone's feelings, even if it's by mistake. And that puts me in kind of a bind. And I'm feeling a little bit flustered over the past couple years about certain topics that are really untouchable. As many of you know, as if you're a regular viewer, you would know this. If you even joined my channel, maybe even within the last year, you might have no clue that I'm even a Kratom vendor or that I have Kratom videos. Like, I had like dozens of Kratom videos, everything educational. As I was learning about it, mitragynine and the different contents and the alkaloids, and YouTube decided to ban it all. And what that did was it made me withdraw from wanting to share those things. And I thought, okay, at a point I thought I can understand why we wouldn't want to have kids being exposed to my weed garden, right? Or kids being exposed to somebody saying, oh, I'm high on Molly. I mean, I grew up in on the early YouTube days. We had, Adam, for example, a psyched substance. He still talks about these things, but it's labeled for 18 and over. They didn't really have all these options back then with YouTube. It was like the Wild West. So kids would click on and they'd go right to a drug video of somebody getting high. I understand some of it, the censorship issues, but that was surrounding drug use, which actually I'm all for legalization, or rather decriminalization of all drugs, but that's a totally separate topic. The point I wanted to make here was that because of this fact that we have so many people uploading so many videos, it got a little crazy for a while, and certain things did get censored. But something's changed over the last year or two, something that was never there before. Things aren't being censored because they are considered classically offensive, such as, F-bombs or sexual content, right? I mean, it's not that sex is a bad thing, but if you show a bunch of nude pictures, it's obviously not appropriate for YouTube, okay? And it shouldn't be. People can put that elsewhere. People don't want to see porn on there. So, but now that's the perfect word, porn, right? That I kind of was reluctant to say the word because people today are more not as afraid of putting the pictures of people up that are naked, but rather even talking about the subject, which will get you completely blocked and banned from a lot of places. Using a word or a phrase can actually get you in serious trouble these days. And it's not often because you have bad intention. You could be a guy like Dave Chappelle. You can use every N-bomb, F-bomb, C-bomb, every single word, offensive term you can possibly imagine. The thing is, there's already an establishment, an established status of who he is as Dave Chappelle. People could love him or hate him, but the point is that people know that he's a comedian. If somebody makes the same joke on the street and somebody's passing by, they might take it completely out of context and have no idea. And we're living in a time now where I'm afraid to even say certain words, as I said. There was one time, this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even longer, where in a video I used the N word, which I'll just call it the N word since everyone knows what it is, and I used it in a video within the context to explain an emphasis on something I believe somebody else had written. I think it was something, I don't even recall what it was. But I said it, and nobody batted an eye. Nobody complained in the comments section. People understood the context and where it came from. If you do that today, your video will be censored and probably eliminated completely. If you even leave that as a comment, I mean, the bots will pick you up because you are being shoved, which in a lot of cases it should be. But it's a very slippery slope when we start cutting out words and language. And many, not linguists, but, psychologists, psychiatrists, people who understand how language works and how people's minds work, realize that if you try to stop people from saying something, all they do is just say it elsewhere. You don't change behavior by forcing it upon others. So it's a really interesting time to be alive. I mean, on one hand, we have all of the people arguing about these smaller issues, really, right? Like, how do I this is why I don't really like to talk about these topics. I want to figure out how to explain what I have to say here without coming across as ignorant. For example, I'm not a climate change skeptic. I believe in climate change. But do I believe that humans are the main source of climate change? Not necessarily. No. Do I think we contribute to it? Absolutely. Do I want to stop the pollution and change the methods of energy that we use? Absolutely. But there are people who will force this green revolution on others, not realizing or not giving the proper information about the rare earth elements it takes to make the windmills, or the transportation or manufacturing costs and pollution it takes to make solar panels, things that we're all working on. But the point being, all this aside, these are sides arguing about bullshit when in reality nuclear power all the while could have been a phenomenal source of power. But you're not even, over the past 50 years, you're not even allowed to talk about nuclear power. People will quote Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island, things like that. Did people die at those? Sure. How many people have died from other methods? Oil, coal, gas, in the solar industry, or the radioactive pools where they mine the rare earth elements to make the giant blades for the motors and the fans for the windmills, if you will. And look, I'm a green energy supporter. I'm wearing a tie-dye, for goodness sake. I I fit into that hippie recycling, do what I can for the environment. And the point I'm making isn't here really about the environment. It's about how the argument has been thrown into a debate about one thing or another. If you don't believe this, you're an idiot. If you do believe it, you're an idiot. This gets into politics every angle right now. And it has to stop. It really has to stop. I don't know how it's going to. But as I said before, when I mentioned, say, the LGBTQ community, as well as women's rights, suffrage, as well as civil rights, all these things that we've pushed so far for. We have come so far as a nation. There is so much less discrimination than there ever was in the past. It's just that the internet magnifies everything we see. Crime rates are down. Murder overall is down, but it's starting to go back up now. But the point is, we're so focused on the negative, we don't see the positives. Everybody's pointing the finger at each other and saying, you should feel guilty because you're this type of person or that type of person. In other words, like, not even acknowledging the roots of the laws, like the drug laws that cause many of these problems, police problems, prison problems, a lot of the issues we face. And we can't even talk about it because it's all about racism. We can't talk about the LGBTQ community and how people post-transition tend to have the same rates of depression, same rates of suicide. And we can't even talk about suicide. All of these things are considered taboo topics. And it makes it really hard to have discourse in this world. I did make one, which was kind of a video, which was kind of my full feelings about COVID and how I really feel about all this, where I didn't feel like I had to hold back on what I said. And that's posted on my Odysee channel. It's uploading right now. So if you haven't checked out my Odysee channel, hop on over there and subscribe. And you'll be able to check out a few other videos that I have posted there. And I'm going to be working on that channel and putting a little more effort into it. And I appreciate everybody who supported me over the years on YouTube. So I'll be uploading my usual stuff here, but probably put more controversial stuff elsewhere since YouTube doesn't welcome it. Even though asking questions about medicine you're putting into your body is now controversial. It's a weird time. So yeah, hop over to Odysee and check it out. Same name, Carpo719. You can also check out my podcast, 15-Minute Free Thinking. It's on all the platforms. And I will talk to you all next time. Take care. Think free. Be well. Peace.